Hey guys, welcome to Connect with Katie. I'm so glad that you can join me. I just wanted to let you know the program that I use for my awesome podcast. It's called Anchor. This program is free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone and your computer. Also, will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. Also, you can make money with no minimum listenership. Best thing is everything you need to make a podcast all in one place. Welcome everybody to the KT Talk Show. I'm super happy today that I have my friend Crystal on. She is a child food advisor among other things. So keep that in mind. Although I'm introducing her as a child food advisor, she has so many other things to talk about, so much information that we can, soak up and take today. So she specializes in transitioning families to eating a clean diet. This is a plan. She makes plans that are exciting for families, easily to follow along with. And, this starts with our mental health and our gut health, and we're going to talk about all those things. She is a skilled author, I already said a child food advisor. She's a storyteller and a mother, which is great because, of course, if we're going to be working with families, we kind of have to know what it's like to be a mother, right? And then the methods she uses have proven to be a part of children's emotional DNA. And like I said, she has a special talent in finding the best program that will suit your family. So, Crystal, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, and then we'll get into the fun topic of oh my goodness, I am like totally, see, this is the day. This is how my introduction is going. Why don't you go ahead
and
just
perfect.
Why don't you just go ahead and introduce yourself?
You did such a great job. I don't even know how I add to that. I would say, yeah, absolutely. So I'm a child food advisor. My background is actually in psychology. That's what I did my undergrad in. And then it comes down to, I really feel like your life experience and the things that you've gone through, that you can then take those experiences, which sometimes aren't the funnest or the nicest, but turn them into something that you can share with others and allow them to learn through the experiences that you had. So, kind of starting from the beginning, I was raised by a single mom. My dad actually passed away in a car accident when I was almost 2, and my brother was 3.5. We're just a year and a half apart. So she was a young mom with 2 kids. And the one thing she got dead right was feeding us really, really clean. And that was also, we had a garden, and that was almost out of necessity, right? Because we didn't have a lot of money. And so I was raised eating carrots out of the garden and strawberries out of the strawberry beds. And that's just how we ate. And I went to school with these doorstop sandwiches. And so my mom knew how important it was for us to be, healthy and find the right fuel that works for kids' bodies. And there weren't, I think, in fairness, I think there weren't as many processed foods, 30 years ago as there are now, or 35 years ago.
Definitely
So yeah, so I tested my system, and I was used to eating really, really clean. And I went off to college and ate all the things. I wasn't allowed soda as a kid. And so I ate all the stuff at the mess hall because I kind of took my healthy foundation for granted. And my first year in college, I nearly dropped out. I had depression, I had anxiety, I had acne, and the worst part was I had migraines, and I had some digestive issues. So you're trying to pay attention and focus, in a very important time of your life. And I was suffering. And so I went home that summer. And just by way of being home with my mom and eating those things and being active and outdoors with my family, I really started to feel better. And so I didn't get that message the first time. And so 10 years later, I get married, and I was married to an Englishman, and they eat like lots of chips, and he drank a lot of Diet Coke, and it was like a lot of roasted everything. And so these migraines came back, and it was really, really bad. And so I kind of did everything, that I could on the surface. I even went to ENT, an ear, nose, and throat specialist, and they burned back my turbinates, which is really painful. And it also didn't work. And so one day I got stung by a bee, and that bee was a little messenger, and I'm not allergic to bees, but this bee sting I mean,
Mm-hmm.
Katie, it like swelled up and it was there for days. And I just kept looking at my arm going like, what's going on with me that my immune system can't
You're right.
manage a little bee sting? So it was really like, we have these moments in life that are kind of our aha moment, right? You can make
Yep.
change by either having an immediate change in your belief because something's happened, or, you know, you go through habits and make new beliefs and new patterns based off being consistent. Those are kind of the two ways that people change. And so I had 2 stepkids, and my stepdaughter, she was very severely ADHD. And so when I started overhauling our entire diet in the house and just cooking a lot more, especially when they were around, and making things with, you know, less ingredients,
Mm-hmm.
it really started to change. And my migraines pretty much went away within 3 months. And my stepdaughter was managing her sensitivities and her differences a lot better. And so I was like, okay, there's something to this. And then when I became a mom years later and I had my baby girl, I was really lucky to have a healthy child. And I was really lucky and blessed to be able to have a great breastfeeding experience. I started looking at my diet even more because everything that's coming through me is going to her.
Yep.
And so it was really kind of just, you know, a life experience of trial and error. And then I love, as you said, I'm an author. So I've written a kids book series, and it's a really relatable story for kids of, you know, these 3 friends are playing sports and they eat some food that, you know, is not the best fuel for them to have the outcome that they want. And they go on this journey of discovering, you know, what the best fuel is for their experience. And so it's a super fun kids story. And then as I started building my brand, Crystal Clear Kids, I, of course, started off kind of coaching, and I went through further work and certifications to include parent-child interactive therapy, which really teaches parents how to consciously communicate with their kids and get them on board in a way that's reducing the power struggles, it's reducing the yelling. And don't get me wrong, I'm a mom. Of course, I raise my voice. But, you know, if we really want to get on our kids' level, we have to really explain. And we forget, you know, we forget that we're their first teachers. So they're asking us why, because they are trying to learn, you know. And so I've been, you know, just aligning with a number of different companies and brands. I've just designed a meal plan for an Olympic summit that was signed up by the U.S. Surf, skate, and snowboard teams, the Olympic teams.
Wow.
I've partnered with, and I've done consulting work with Mattel. They have a whole family program. Mm-hmm. I'm a founding board member of a foundation called the Global Action Sports Foundation, and we support well-deserving athletes to get into all things action sports. So whether that's getting into a training facility or supporting them as they're exiting sport, and how do they, you know, proceed in their career from there. Just because you're not, you know, on stage anymore, what do you do with that social capital that you've accumulated over all of that hard work? And let's see, I'm a mentor for a group called San Diego Sport Innovators Group. So we help active lifestyle companies and sports companies get their grounds here in San Diego, which we've got it's the lifestyle here. We've got surf and skate and snowboarding and things like that. It's just a part of our community. And then I developed and launched the Family Support Program, and I've also white labeled it to an Action Sports Academy up in San Francisco. So we've got 6 cities on board that they launched the program out to their communities through. I'm sure you're familiar with like the community guides. If you look at, you know, the city of, and we've got different programs that you can enroll yourself as an adult, whether it's an art class or, you know, a science class for your kids. So the Family Support Program is with a ton of cities up in San Francisco. And then I've done work with Boys and Girls Club, and it's just been through organic outreach. And, you know, I think maybe being in the right place at the right time, and ultimately always giving first, and doing my best to be a connector and saying, how can I support you? So yeah, as far as the partnerships and work history and my entire background, the Crystal Clear Kids platform is and company is really my kind of sole purpose if you look at it from that perspective. Wow. So yeah.
Well, that was a fabulous introduction. Thank you for that. As you were talking, I was thinking about, you know, we forget how easy it is, or not even how easy it is. So let's say, for example, you're taking your kid to the grocery store, right? And you're trying, and you don't want to get them anything when you're checking out, but sometimes you end up getting them a little candy bar or something, when you're going to the grocery store.
Yeah.
So my thing is, I was just thinking about this as a mother for myself, because I just the last few years have transitioned into more vegan diet, for my daughter, teaching her how to make smoothies and, all those things. So I guess I want to talk about more of the gut health with children and kind of, talking on that topic of how important it really is for children to be consuming, these healthy, gut healthy probiotic foods instead of, building them up with some sugar and kind of ignoring the fact that the kids need that healthy diet just like the adults need the diet. Do you know what I'm saying? So I kind of want to just touch on that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, when I look at the state of the generation that we've got in front of us, I don't say it lightly. We are absolutely in a crisis. We've got 1 in 6 kids are obese, a third of kids are depressed, a third of kids are stressed out, and we're literally looking at the first generation that may not outlive their parents, and it comes from a number of different things. It comes from aggressive marketing towards kids. A shift and a change in family dynamics. I believe personally that parents do absolutely want the best for their kids when it comes to all things health, mental health and physical health. And we kind of put our trust into the food system. So that can go into a much bigger topic, but 80% of our foods are filled with sugar. And there's 56 different names for it. And so when we're looking at packages, we're told low fat is good for you. Okay, that's a lie.
Right, totally.
Right, right. You've got 2,500 calories of sugar on your body and 250,000 of fat. So when you increase fat, and I'm talking healthy fats, avocados, coconut oils, healthy oils, nuts and nut butters, when you get more of those in your kid's system, your body starts using that as fuel, and then it starts to tap into, because our bodies are so brilliantly designed, our bodies start tapping into fat as a source of energy, which is the most efficient source of energy. So a lot of times when people feel like they're hungry, you've either there's 6 different types of hunger, but the top 2 are you're thirsty, or you've burned through your blood sugar. So you're getting these hunger pains, and it's because of lack of sugar. And sugar is a little devil. What it does is that actually leptin is a hormone, created in your body, and it's meant to tell your brain when you're full. And sugar hijacks leptin's job and it turns it off. So you can keep on eating even though you're not hungry. You just think that you're hungry because leptin hasn't been able to come in and do its job. And now ghrelin it's another hormone. It has the opposite job. It's meant to tell you so leptin tells your body when you're full and ghrelin tells you when you're hungry. I'm about to switch those around. And so both of those can't do their job because sugar comes in and hijacks it. And so when we talk about gut health with kids, I mean, we've seen more kids, with differences. And I say differences because ADD and ADHD is not a disease. It's caused by, the gut and psychological syndrome, where we've got the connection from our gut, which is our second brain. So everything that goes into our gut is then sending signals to our brain. And so if you've got a kid that's labeled ADD or ADHD, or maybe they're really hyperactive, or they're not able to self-soothe and really manage their emotional outbursts, that all comes from our gut. And so if we can empower kids and instill in them, the healthy eating habits, like eating fruit in the morning, whole fruit. Smoothies are fantastic, right? It's a really easy way to get nutrients into them. You can add so many things in there, My daughter's favorite is to add spirulina. It's probably the most nutrient dense supplement on the planet, or food source on the planet. And it's this really cool green. We add that to the smoothie. She's like, look at it, it's mermaid green. I'm going, girlfriend, you're right. It is.
Yeah,
it's mermaid green.
Let's go with it.
And she's, let's go with it. Whatever can be fun and easy. So, giving your kids a probiotic supplement, I don't ever recommend supplements to parents because every body is different, but there are so many different ways. You can add bone broth in when you make their ramen noodles, and you can get in some fermented foods, and whether you're comfortable giving them kombucha. My daughter loves kombucha. There's some great brands out there. You know, things like kimchi, if it's not too spicy, sauerkraut, even pickled beets. If you can get just a little bit, even a tablespoon, you know, and keep adding that to their plate, you know, and offering it and not getting into a power struggle. And the easiest way to do that, of not getting into a power struggle, is to just not talk about dinner when you're at dinner. Talk about everything else.
Right.
And just by way of demonstrating that you enjoy eating healthy foods. And, you know, it takes 11 times. And this is the thing that's difficult too, is we've all got to be so patient.
Oh, of course.
It takes 11 times for a kid to decide that they like something before they'll get on board with it. It's reduced if they're in their peer groups. If you've got kids in classrooms or kids in groups, whatever they're doing, extracurricular activities, you know, they're more prone to try tomatoes or cucumbers or whatever it is that, you know, that you're trying to increase in their diet if they're around their friends and their friends are eating it. So when it comes to gut health, I mean, that truly is, Hippocrates said it best, all diseases begin in the gut. And so if we can empower our kids with saying, okay, before you have that treat, and again, like I said, when we, you know, our kids are under attack, marketing is very, very advanced now.
Oh my gosh.
You know, at the checkout line, they're going to see all those candies, right? And it's everywhere. It's not even just the grocery store. I mean, think about every store you go to, like Best Buy, Target, where any shop that you go to, Michael's, a craft store, they've got these highly processed, massively filled with sugar foods right in front of your kid's face at eye level, you know? And so,
exactly.
And so when we talk about gut health, it's like, okay, you know what? I believe in balance and I believe in 70-30. So I'm never going to say, don't give your kids sugar ever, 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 because that's not fun. That's not fun at all. But if we can get our kids to a place that they understand, okay, let's have some whole fruits and whole vegetables and whole grains first, and then have the cake or the muffin or the cookies or whatever as a part of dinner, so that we kind of take the stigma away and we take the taboo away. So that's just normal and natural. Like, hey, tonight for dinner, we're going to have, you know, some ground turkey meatloaf and some roasted broccoli and chocolate cake. And so it's a part of dinner, and they'll stop wanting it so much because it's not something that you're saying, like is really bad. Exactly. And food is never a reward, ever, ever, ever. It's just, that's a part of dinner. And I don't have a problem with having chocolate cake. Who would?
Right. Of course. Yeah, no, that's extremely important. And I've learned more than anything because I personally, and I don't even like to admit this, but like I saw my daughter like gaining weight, and I'm like, I need to change her diet, you know, and like, I don't think I'm eating right either. And I started to realize as I was doing research and stuff, because I had a thyroid. I mean, I don't believe that mine is as deficient as it used to be, because I've changed my diet so much, and I can tell by my weight loss and mental focus and things like that. But I really knew as soon as she started to gain weight, you know, I'm like, okay, we got to take a step back, and we both have to evaluate like how we're both eating, because I have to be a good role model for her and show her that, you know, this is how everybody should be eating, not just me or you or, you know, dad or grandma. Like, you know, I want to make, and this is good for your overall health in the future. And you can teach your friends this too, you know, like I even get into that. But really, you know, I think I'm glad that you brought up the ADHD and the ADD thing. Cause I personally worked with children with autism, and they always had that, you know how they call that like comorbid, or where they have ADHD and autism together. And I've actually started to tell a lot of the kids didn't eat at all. They didn't eat anything. They wouldn't even eat like the tiniest bit of Pop-Tart or anything like that. And these kids they were doing terrible because their diet was, these kids weren't even talking. And I'm telling you, I got this kid, and I don't know if this is what it was, but this is why I'm leading to this conversation. I don't know if this is what it was, but this kid, he would not eat a darn thing. He wouldn't open his mouth. I could not get this kid to open his mouth. And then one day, finally, we just took our time and we're like, you know what? I'm just going to start putting it in front of him wherever he is. So maybe he'll just be tempted to take a bite. Well, he finally did. He started eating and he did not talk at all. He did not say a word. He was very nonverbal. And then all of a sudden, like 2 weeks later, he starts eating, he starts talking. I was like,
Yeah. Wow.
what just happened? I'm like, is this because he started eating? Like, is this because he's getting nutrients in his body and now finally it's going to his brain? And, so it just, when you were talking about that, it's giving me chills because still to this day, I was so amazed by that. I just was like, your gut really does have so much to do with the way that your brain processes. And, and you're talking about all these kids having depression and, we're taking them to the doctors and they're getting all this medication. And, and then we have people like you who are not, I'm not bashing on doctors. I'm not bashing at any health specialist, but, people like you who are like, look, like, let's take this from the psychological perspective too. You know what I mean? And see, like, if your kid just eats better, then he's going to be overall mentally better too, he or she.
Yeah.
So
yeah, no, absolutely. And what happens is with doctors, unfortunately, my stepdad's an anesthesiologist, my mom's a nurse. They have at best 4 hours of training on nutrition.
Wow.
They're taught to treat symptoms, not the disease.
Mm-hmm.
And the disease, getting to the root of it, comes down to a lot of different things, right? Like our activity levels and how much time we're exercising and connecting with other humans. We are biologically wired. We're born in this world to connect. And everything that you put in, all of the thoughts, all of the feelings, all of the foods, all have an outward expression. And so I was just this summer actually with my sister-in-law, and she's a doctor and she works with kids with autism as a therapist. And I said to her, like, how do these parents manage their diet? She's like, it's a struggle for them just to get through the day. And if they realized how important their diet was, it would absolutely categorically improve their experience with their kid, managing this difference. And so we're working on getting the family support program into her clinic, which is phenomenal because again, the connection between the two, between kids with autism, they've found that everything goes back to their guts, right?
Mm-hmm.
That their bacteria isn't healthy, that their flora is damaged, and absolutely right, they can't get the nutrients to then nourish themselves to send those healthy signals to their brain. I mean, I think it's something like 80 or 90% of your serotonin, which is that lovely feel-good hormone. You eat a piece of chocolate, it produces serotonin. We love it. It's produced in your gut.
Yep.
It's produced right there in your gut. And GABA, which is, something, again, that's naturally produced in your body, that comes from your gut. And GABA helps us feel relaxed. So, all of these things that are meant to balance our bodies and the foods that support that are so important, especially in the generation that we're looking at. And again, in my own experience, not only working with groups of families with kids that are labeled on the spectrum or labeled with differences, and my own experience with my stepdaughter, when we started changing her diet and even with cow's milk, right? Cow's milk is a big discussion that I have because it causes so much inflammation and it leaches calcium from your bones. It's doing the opposite of what we want it for. I mean, if you get down to it, you ask anybody, why do you drink cow's milk? They're like, well, because of the calcium. Okay, well, let's look at nutrition 101 then, because calcium is a mineral and it's found in the soil. And so first of all, you don't get the calcium that you're intending to get from cow's milk because it's so acidic for our bodies that our bodies can't even process it and alchemize it. And so there's so many foods that I actually have a calcium-rich foods list so that parents can see this is how much calcium my kids need per day. And then this is the serving amount. And then this is the resource. This is exactly the source of where I can get it from.
No, that's great. And for now that we're talking about that, because I wanted to talk more about your program a little bit. So if somebody is just starting out in your program, because most you focus on families, can you talk about kind of like how the process works, or is it all usually just different every time? Like, do you start with a certain thing with each family, or do they always come to you differently, I guess?
So there's two things. So I do work in groups, and I work here in San Diego. thankfully, we've got things like Zoom. So about 2 or 3 times a year max, I'll do groups because we run them through a 6-week process.
Okay.
And so I packaged that up. And so that's done and coordinated kind of on the back end, I suppose. And so people reach out to me. I then pull together a group. Change happens in groups, right? And so when we get the families together and they're all talking and sharing what worked for me and what didn't work for me,
Awesome.
that's when it really becomes effective. The Family Support Program is a standalone online course, and it's really easy to find. It's crystalclearkids.online/FSP. F as in Frank, so Family Support Program. And that's a 6-week course that I run those families through. So people can do that independently. And then we also have a Facebook group that they can join, again, to mingle and mix and mingle and share stories and successes and failures with other families. And so the Family Support Program online includes all of it. It includes the workbooks. It includes booklets. It has a set of videos. And each week, the videos, I know personally how busy my life can get. And so if I'm going to watch a video, it's got to keep my attention for between 8 and 10 minutes. Right. And so I designed the Family Support Program that very way.
Yeah, of course.
So
I get that.
So module 1 is broken up into 3 short videos. And then all the way through module 6, they're about 2 or 3 videos a piece. And so it's at max, it's 20 minutes. And so it's really easy to digest. And I get to the punchline pretty quickly of, okay, here's the topic. And so number 1 is mindset and beliefs, because when our kids are little, that's when they're instilling their belief systems and their experiences with the world, which they then carry into adulthood. And you and I know as adults, we're going back and looking at what belief did I get around the age of 5 years old that's still true in my life today? Yeah. And how can I get rid of that belief system? And so consciously supporting parents in ways of how we have those conversations, as I mentioned earlier, doing the work with parent-child interactive therapy of how we can consciously communicate to them and ask questions in a way that really get them on board, and have our kids feel like we're their ally and their best friend, and that we're not here to force them or to challenge them in an aggressive way, because that doesn't work for anybody, right? That doesn't work in any situation in adulthood. So saying because I said so, that doesn't really answer their question, does it?
I hate that.
Yeah.
Oh, I hate that. So, because I said so.
Yep.
Okay.
Because I said so. All right. Well, what did your child learn in that
Exactly.
moment? Because I said so. That you're an authoritarian figure.
Right.
I do absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I do believe in boundaries. And the other thing about putting boundaries in place with your kids is kids' brains work, very similar to adults. We've got our right brain and our left brain. And when kids feel safe and secure, and they know that those boundaries and rules are in place, it allows them to go into their right brain, which is so beautiful because they can be creative and they can play and they can use their imagination and all of the things that we want them to do. But we've got to stand firm on our boundaries, and we've got to stand firm on these are the house rules. And so when it comes to mealtime, I follow a 3-step rule: demonstrate, communicate, and enforce. And enforce doesn't mean force. So one thing I teach parents as a part of the program is get used to saying you don't have to eat. I would never force my kid to eat. I would never encourage you to force your children to eat, because we've got to allow them, to learn to regulate a schedule as to when they're hungry and know when they're actually hungry, not just when they want some sugar or something that's processed, and to put those foods and to consistently and continually introduce them. So always have one thing that that they'll eat. Pasta is always a winner because you can put in so many things in there. You can pasta to me is the dinner time smoothie. You can add in
totally
so many different things in there. And it's a great starter for when you're trying to increase, the vegetable intakes for your kids. You can puree and saute anything from carrots to kale and garlic and sneak that in there. And you can sneak in so many superfoods into pasta, and your kids will absolutely get on board and love it. I don't know what kid doesn't like pasta.
Me neither. Yeah.
What kid doesn't like pasta? So there's so many different ways that we can do it, but really, the demonstration of you eating well and eating on the same schedule as them, and then communicating to them why, right? This is the fuel for our bodies. Our bodies are designed this way, as you were saying earlier, Katie, about, how do I get my daughter on board? Well, it's how we need to eat the things that our bodies were designed to eat. And I think that message has kind of gotten lost. And unfortunately, we go back to looking at the food system and to the marketing and to how the original food pyramid was created. I mean, 6 to 11 servings of grains is just insane. That's so much.
Yeah.
And that's what the original recommendation was that we all grew up on. And it's just shocking to me. And so we really need to look at, okay, let's have 50% of our kids' plate come, yes, from carbohydrates, but remember, carbohydrates are in vegetables, right? And when we look at those carbohydrates, let's look at whole grains and let's look at quinoa. Right? That's actually a seed, but it's filled with all 9 essential amino acids. And essential amino acids are amino acids, which are the building blocks of protein that our bodies can't make themselves. And so we have to get them from our diet. Quinoa answers that. So you can make quinoa fried rice. You can make quinoa for breakfast. You can make quinoa and add that to granola bars. There's so many different ways that are fun and creative and getting your kids involved and on board with it that they feel like it's their idea. So when we provide that safety and say, okay, this is what our family eats like, and these are the whole foods that I provide to you because I love you and I want you to be healthy and powerful and strong and run fast or whatever's authentic to you, then it gives your kid that sense of safety. And then they can explore and be kids and be creative and relaxed. Mm-hmm. It's when we back off and we say no, and then they kind of look at us, and we've all had our kids do it, right? They get one over on us because we're tired or we've got other things that we're working on or we're distracted, but we've really got to stand our ground and say, these are the rules and these are the boundaries. And that comes around mealtime and playtime and school and all of those other things. But when we give them that foundation of safety and security, we really allow them to feel safe and to have fun and play and be creative and be kids.
Exactly. And all in that, what happens is when, you're teaching this program, it's building that really solid parent-child relationship. You're not, like you were talking about, like it's all in all, it builds that solid, happy relationship, between the two of them. And it's all because it started with just being healthier human beings.
Yep. Yep, absolutely. Yeah.
That's amazing. Well, is there any specials or anything that you have like going on or coming up that would be beneficial for the audience?
Yeah. So the family support program, because we're in that back to school window right now, I have a code. It's back to school, TO. So BACKTO school. And that gives you 20% off. There are 2 options to jump into the family support program. There's what I call the entrance, which is amazing. It has all of the videos. It has all of the workbooks. It has a booklet of sample recipes. And the best thing of all, it has a gut reset guide. So I am a huge advocate, just a sidebar here, on strengthening our guts, which is what we talked about. And so the gut reset guide, when I created that, there's so many different cleanses out on the market right now. And again, it's such a wild time to live in that this health and wellness industry has gone into a boom, and it's amazing. But I don't believe in juice cleanses. And there's a number of reasons why, because number one, you're just getting the sugar, and without the fiber, your body can't process it. So you're just spiking your blood sugar. And number two, you're not getting the nutrients that you're looking for if your gut is not strong enough to just absorb the nutrients. So the Gut Reset Guide is a 3-week process that is filled with the most amazing recipes. You won't feel like you're on a cleanse. It's nothing but whole foods. You have fruit smoothies for breakfast. You have whole fruit for breakfast. There's snacks throughout the day. There's some amazing soups and there's fish and sauteed greens. And I kind of put a little bit of everything, but each recipe is designed with an ingredient in it that actually strengthens your gut, either a fermented food or a naturally occurring probiotic. And you can take that alongside probiotics if you wish, but we just ran through it ourselves because I was like, hey, I've created this. And so I put my whole household through it and nobody complained. The only thing is that every Sunday you've got a meal prep so that when you go to the kitchen, you've just immediately got something available. So when that hunger attacks, right? So the family support program, the entrance is only $187, and there is a payment plan on it as well. So if you take 20% off, it's really, really easy for anybody to jump in. And then the debut includes all the bells and whistles. And so when we look at we look at it, you've got the videos, you've got the workbooks, you've got booklets, you've got the sample recipes, the gut reset guide, age appropriate tasks, which is highly important because kids as young as 2 years old can help and be a part of the family by setting the table with plasticware, and then you've got what's appropriate for my 8-year-old or 10-year-old to help me in the kitchen, because the more that they help in the kitchen, the more familiar they are with the food and the more comfortable they are with it.
Perfect.
And then it's like it's their idea. So there's so many different ways that you can get your kids involved in the kitchen so that the end result is when they've got that plate in front of them, they're like, hey, I cooked this. Hey, I made this. I'm comfortable eating it because I was involved in being a part of that. And then mindfulness tasks for kids. Like, how can we help our kids reduce stress? And it's by practicing mindfulness. And it's funny because if you ask a kid, what does mindfulness mean? I got the cutest answer last week when we did a marketing session with Rob's Skate Academy up in San Francisco. And this little girl said, well, being mindful just means slowing down and actually like enjoying that ice cream cone. Because if you're thinking about something in the future that hasn't happened yet, or if you're worried about something that happened in the past, then you can't enjoy that ice cream in the present moment. And I was like, girlfriend, spot on. I mean, I couldn't have said it better myself.
Oh my gosh, that's adorable.
It was the sweetest thing. And so there's different mindfulness tasks that we can do with our kids. And at the end of the night, right, there's a few different practices that I've learned with my daughter. And even if she's not with me, if she's away on a sleepover, she'll call me and say, Mommy, I can't sleep. And we'll do a quick whole body squeeze. Like, okay, imagine squeezing all that energy out. And it's really fun and it's an easy way. And you can do it as an adult, right? And so the mindfulness tasks for kids, and then I have weekly meal plans and shopping lists so you can introduce a new veggie every week. There are the calcium-rich foods list. There's the Dirty Dozen and Clean 15. Somebody asked me at dinner last night, actually, what do you think about having families eat all organic? And I said, well, we're looking at a time now where is organic really organic anymore? Because if you've got an organic farm and you have one that's non-organic right next to it, what happens? They cross-pollinate and everything from the non-organic farm is then pollinating the organic farm. And so, there are certain foods like I don't buy organic bananas. It's in the peel. I don't buy organic avocados. They're in a peel, but anything that has a permeable skin like strawberries and tomatoes, absolutely get those organic, and shop at your local farmers markets if you can, if you've got one close to you. But, always check the organic section for, the more nutrient dense foods, because we want to get as many in our kids as possible and really teach them the how. So the debut is the other option, and that also has a payment plan too, and it's only $227. So I really wanted the program and my vision to reach as many families as possible, which is why we've done, the work through channel partners. As I said, all the cities in San Francisco, it's offered through a nonprofit like Boys and Girls Club. And then of course it's direct to consumer. So anybody can easily find it. Again, it's crystalclearkids.online/FSP.
Awesome. Girl, you are just so amazing. I just have to tell you that. Like, you have just really got it going on with this whole gut health and knowing the psychological part with kids. I mean, you're just like, I'm just thinking about, the fact that you're so on with the making sure that kids understand how important it is themselves, not just the parents, so I love that. And I just think that this whole program is so amazing. I'm really, really amazed by it. Like, I really am. I think it's a great program, and I don't know any program out there like this one. I don't know, you know what I mean? I know there's dietitians and things like that, but you just have a whole different perspective on it. So I really like it.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah. I mean, it's so important how we talk to our kids, right? And really get on their level, because as they get older, I'm not sure how old your daughter is, but when I worked with kids that are 5 and younger, with those age range of families, it's it's easier, right? Because you just don't buy the stuff and it's just, well, it is what it is. And so this is just how we eat. But when kids get a little bit older, that's when we really have to sharpen our own, conversations and tactics that work for them. And it comes down to, so there's going to be in every situation, there's going to be, what do you want the outcome to be, I guess is a better way of saying it. So there's consequences to every action and you're free to do whatever you want, but what's the consequence? And that works with talking with them about their food choices. Like, okay, you ate this and then look what happened. So how do you feel about making that choice? Right. Or, hey, you hung out with this group of friends and maybe they didn't make the best choices. And now the outcome of your choices ended up with what? You're on restriction at home and you've lost electronics or lost playtime or whatever it is. And so you have to really talk to them in a way that allows them to think, because we can't always, make choices for our kids. We want to really empower them to think about what they're doing and to be conscious and mindful about what they're doing. And so if you're able to frame consequences and actions as kids get older from around the 7 to kind of 10 years old, once they're 12, they're pretty much set in, but you're still having that conversation with them. Like, hey, you made this choice and that's great because you're an independent person. And I always want you to think for yourself, but you made that choice. And then what was the consequence?
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, that's perfect. That my daughter, she'll actually be 11 in November. So she's in that age where it was pretty tough for me, because just like I told you, these last 2 years was kind of tough for me to get her to understand why it was important. But actually, because I started a little bit, like 2 years ago, now that she's getting to the age where she's understanding why it's important, it's a lot easier now because I did it 2 years ago instead of right now. So
yeah. Yeah.
So I totally get that.
It can be done at any age. And people always ask me, they're like, Crystal, what age is this program appropriate for? And I'm like, well, babies to 15-year-olds. Mm-hmm. And I was having a conversation with actually the director of one of the cities that we were onboarding. And he kind of laughed at me. He's like, well, Crystal, I have a 14-year-old that eats terribly. And I looked at him and I was like, who does the grocery shopping? I'm sorry, but who does the grocery shopping? And so, how can we change that for teenagers that are more independent? And there's so many ways. I mean, clearly I could talk about this until the cows come home because it's something I've studied not only through the groups through the groups I work with, but also, the professional, courses and classes and certifications that I've done. And so, we're really here to kind of guide and be, that lighthouse for our kids to come home to. And if we're able to speak to them in a loving and conscious way, like we would want to be spoken to, because I'll be honest, it does trigger me a bit when I see parents snap at their kids.
Of course.
It's hard. Don't get me wrong. Like I said, there are times I raise my voice too, but I look at those parents and I think, okay, if you really want to get them on board, shaming is not a tactic. Shaming is never going to work. That's going to make them just feel really bad. And snapping at them, like you wouldn't talk to your friend that way, would you? So why is it okay to talk to your kid that way?
That's a good way to put it. You wouldn't talk to your friend that way. That's a good way to say that. Like you wouldn't talk to your friend that way. So why would you talk to your own kids like that?
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. But the funny thing is that, through the training with parent-child interactive therapy, in an empathetic way, and I do have empathy for parents that do get very frustrated. And so the parent-child interactive therapy certification is actually teaching parents how to consciously speak to them in a way that gets them on board. And its original purpose was for parents that, were unfortunately a bit verbally abusive. But their point, the parents that kind of have this issue or that they're facing is that they're trying to get their kids to do the things that the rest of us are.
Yeah.
And they're just approaching it in a way that isn't as gentle and isn't as effective. And so if we can guide them gently and easily, and the end of the program ends with that, like here's actual examples of how to have a conversation and how to frame the question. And yes, you're going to have to learn a little bit of patience and exercise patience. And that takes practice. That absolutely takes practice. So, here are the ways that you can actually have a conversation with your kid to get them on board, and pause and allow your kid to respond, because they don't process as fast as we do. Their brains are still developing. Those neurotransmitters are still finding new pathways.
100%. 100%. So the last thing that I had, because like I know there's so many things that we could talk about. I'm just thinking like, oh my gosh, we could literally talk for hours. I swear we could. Like I could think of so many things to talk about with you. But I did want to ask you, because I know this is something you started on your own and doing certifications, and I always like to ask everybody, entrepreneurs, these questions. But is this something that, like, do you have other people working with you? Do you hire people? Is this just like this is your business? I'm just curious because, sometimes people like to get into this. And so just for anybody that wants to get into it, or maybe you have a program for that.
So I am a woman-owned business, very proudly, and yes, it's completely mine. I have some teams that run my marketing, and I've just launched my own podcast. So I would love to interview you back, Katie, at some point. That would be a great, fun little experience for both of us.
Of course.
But in regards to like a sales team or anybody that supports me in this, it's really been, as I said, when I talked about the partnerships with, Global Action Sports Foundation, Mattel, the Olympics, that's been through my own personal relationships. I mean, there are, 8 forms of capital. Social capital is one of them. And so friends in the industry, et cetera, have kind of gotten me this far. But as I grow, I'm absolutely going to be looking for additional team members. Because we're also launching this. There's things that happen in life, Katie, that sometimes you're like, I can believe it happened because I created it, but wow. So I just developed the food plan, as I said, for the Olympics. They're having a summit. And then I've partnered with Mattel as well. And so we're developing the family support program as a corporate wellness program. Mm-hmm. And in 1 month, it's going to be launched with Red Bull.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's so awesome.
So it's kind of going 3 ways. I go direct to consumer, which is just, my brand. And then I've got channel partners, as I said, like the Action Sports Academy up in San Francisco. Mm-hmm. And then it goes the other way with corporate wellness. And so I'm absolutely going to be looking to add to my team anybody that's got a alignment, I guess, with the same beliefs and same kind of background. They definitely would have to have some kind of nutritional certification so that I know that we're all in alignment with what the purpose and kind of core mission is of Crystal Clear Kids. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I'm looking to build the team very, very quickly. It's probably going to happen a lot sooner than I'm projecting.
No, that's amazing. Cause I would love for us to do something together because you are like way on board with exactly what I'm doing right now. I'm trying to get on that. I'm focusing more on just women because obviously, I'm more familiar. And families too, because I worked with children with autism and parents. But I just had to ask you that for I wanted to ask my own personal question for everybody else, but I think it'd be fun. So
yeah, absolutely. We're always looking to align with other channel partners and that's what this entire, shift that we're looking at, isn't it? That we've got a shift right now of more divine feminine linking together. And what does divine feminine mean? It means collaboration.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
We go farther and further together.
Yes. I feel like we've been in such a masculine world and now we're finally like the feminine is just shooting out and we're all like, okay, ladies, this is it. No, obviously everybody has masculine and feminine, but we're like, no, we're doing this. We are changing the world now.
Well, we are. And I think, it benefits men too, because men come to women-owned business and they're like, well, wait, so you're using the power of intention, visualization, and manifesting? Like, how do you do that? Because business is very masculine. Business is very go out there, get it done, produce, push out, and that masculine side. But the feminine side is like, okay, I can put things out, but it doesn't necessarily mean hard work all the time.
Exactly.
It means sometimes come back.
Exactly.
I'm literally writing it out what I want and writing it down on a piece of paper. And then whether your practice is to chant or pray or burn a candle, whatever that may be and whatever feels good to you, men can also incorporate that because I have a partner and he's got a whole powerhouse of his own and we've done some projects together. And he's like, I've learned more from you in business than I have in all of the years that I did.
I've heard that before.
Economics and law degree and all of these other things. And I'm like, I can put so much out there, but then I also have to remember to receive and to set the intentions and to pray about it and to visualize it happening. And there's so much power in that.
Yeah, exactly. Well, this was beautiful. I had a really good conversation, and you are a very knowledgeable woman, and I appreciate every piece of everything that you said today. Sorry, like we talked about before. I'm having an off day today.
Mercury retrograde or something again. I don't know.
I'm like, maybe it's because I know I'm one of those people where I'm like 30 minutes to 45 minutes, like the cutoff, like the struggle is real at that point. I'm telling you what.
Yeah. No, but thank you so much for having me. This has been phenomenal. And yeah, I appreciate the connection. Yeah,
me too. And like I said, hopefully we'll collaborate somehow, because you really, really like what you're doing.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I will talk to you soon.
Okay, Katie, have a good day.
Bye.
Bye.
This episode is powered by Poddex.